Okay, so we've got just under a month to go to the UEFA Women's Euro 2025 tournament. The tournament actually kicks off on the 2nd of July. The final takes place on the 27th of July. So the tournament itself runs for just under a month and kicks off in just under a month's time. It's the 4th of June as we are recording this video. There are four groups of four nations each, so 16 nations have qualified. I think Group A is the weakest group. I think Group C and Group D, they are groups of death. Group B looks quite competitive and quite compelling. You've got to look at this. England are the holders, Spain are the World Cup holders, so they both qualified. And you've got Germany in a very tough group, whereas Group A just looks really weak. And I don't think a team from Group A is going to be winning the tournament somehow, unless something magical happens. Now, Group A has Finland, Iceland, Norway and Switzerland. For me, Norway are the standout favourites, just what they've done in the women's game historically. Although at the last Euros, I was disappointed with them. I was disappointed with Norway at the last Euros 4 years ago. They did not perform very well. They had some bad defeats and struggled, and that surprised me considering Norway's history in the women's game and what they've done for women's football as a nation. They were disappointing. Now, Finland and Iceland, they are, I think, two of the weaker nations that have qualified. Switzerland are the hosts. I expect Switzerland to get out of this group as well. I think it's going to be between Norway and Switzerland for top spot. Iceland and Finland, I mean, look, the Scandinavian nations do put a lot of emphasis on the women's game and women's sport in general. There's a lot of funding and a lot of growth, but I just don't see Iceland and Finland as on the same level as Norway and Switzerland. But I do think Group A is the weakest group on paper. But as we say, I don't think it's likely that we have a Norway finalist or a Switzerland finalist, for example. Stranger things have happened in international sport. A team can just get on a run, get some momentum, and strange things can happen. But that is the weakest group for me. Group B is quite a competitive group. You've got Belgium in there, they're the weakest team, but Italy, Portugal and Spain. Spain, I think, are the favourites for this group. They're World Cup holders. Now, there has been a fallout from the World Cup victory with, Jenny Hermoso and Rubiales and the coach and everything that's gone on there. Scandal-wise, which I think has damaged the reputation of Spanish football and I think has hurt the women's game in Spain and also hurt the morale of the team and the positivity around the team. I think Italy are a very strong team in this group. Portugal are massively improved, but they're not on the level of Italy and Spain. Belgium, I'm not sure what the Belgians are going to produce. I think they're the weakest nation in this group. But it's a very intriguing one because I think top spot Italy could pose problems for Spain. Italy have a very decent side. They play a decent style. They've got a good professional game over in Italy now. A lot of the big clubs now have women's teams. They do produce a lot of players. And Spain, I think, could be a little bit vulnerable. Now, I think Spain are one of the favourites for the tournament, but we've seen before where a nation wins a tournament and then struggles to, back it up at the next tournament and make latter stages. There's going to be a lot of focus on Spain because of the fallout of the World Cup victory and all the scandal there. They are one of the teams to beat because they are world champions. There's a target on them. That means other teams will raise their game. I think Italy will be challenging Spain for top spot. In saying that, Portugal could be a little bit dangerous. I think they have improved over the last 4 years. But I think Italy and Spain will be the top two, all things going well. It's Group C and Group D, where predicting it's just, throw a dart at a dartboard and say that team's going to miss out or that team's going to qualify. Denmark, Germany, Poland and Sweden are Group C. Any one of these teams could get out of the group. I think Poland are the weakest team. That's a given. But Sweden, Denmark and Germany, I mean, you've got three of the favourites for the tournament there in one group. It is a group of death. Group C, I think, is one of the groups of death. Germany are not the side that they once were. They're still a very strong outfit. They made the final in the last tournament, but they are not as strong as they used to be. They're not as dominant as they used to be. Other nations have not only caught up the gap, but surpassed them. Spain and England, as examples, have now not only, as I say, caught them up, but have taken that next step and kicked on. Denmark and Sweden, don't discount them. They've got really good structures, systems, and some really good players. Poland, for me, is the weakest nation. They haven't really they qualified, but they haven't really done much at major women's tournaments up to this point. But The game is developing, the game is growing, but 3 out of the 4 teams could finish first in this group, and a big nation will be going home from Group C early. A big nation's going to miss out on the knockout stages, which could have massive ramifications for funding, player development, and coaches. As I say, Denmark, Sweden, and Germany. It's you toss a coin for out of those 3, one of those nations is going to miss out on the knockout stages. Now, we always love an underdog story, but I think tournaments are better when the big nations do make the latter stages, but it's also good when an underdog makes the latter stages and goes on a run as well, because it again creates interest, creates a storyline. That's going to be a tough one. I'm looking forward to the Sweden-Denmark game, and I'm actually looking forward to the Germany-Poland game, just for the rivalry between the two nations in both games. Group D is another group of death. England, France, Netherlands and Wales. Another big nation is going home. I feel sorry for the Welsh in this instance. While they have developed as a nation in the women's game and taken massive strides, and it's an important thing that they have qualified, I think just getting a draw in one of those games, I think, will be an achievement for them, and they can go, right, we've now played at a major tournament, we can learn lessons for the World Cup in 2 years' time. I think, again, England, France, Netherlands, a big nation, is going to miss out. England, obviously, Mary Earps announcing her shock retirement. That has stunned the playing group and the coaching setup. I think that's the only negative for England going into this tournament, though. They made the holders of the tournament, and they made the World Cup final. So this is another one of the favourites. There's a target on this team, much like Spain, and to a certain extent Germany. These are the teams with big targets on. The Dutch and the French are also some of the favourites, amongst the favourites, but again, a group of death. And nations like England, and I'm obviously wanting England to do well, have taken massive strides in the last 6 to 8 years. France have taken massive strides. The Dutch have always had a very good women's setup that has again taken massive strides. Nations like Germany in Group C used to be the team to beat, and now they're beatable. So it's an interesting one. I think Group C and Group D are harder to predict. 2 big nations will be going home at the group stage, and well, look, it's a 16-team competition. I think that's about right for where women's football's at quality wise. We saw it we've seen not only at the last World Cup, but the World Cup prior, lots of mismatches when you've expanded a tournament and more teams qualify. We also seen that at the Euros and the Men's World Cup as well. With expanded tournaments, you are going to get some mismatches at this point, although the women's game has massively developed. A lot of the top players in all these nations play all over Europe, so it's not as if none of these teams are no-hopers and have no chance of winning a game or getting a draw, but there are some really weak teams in here like Finland, Iceland, Belgium, Poland and Wales. They'll be happy with a draw, progression, first tournament experience for some of these players, especially the Welsh, whereas teams like England, their objective is to retain the title. Anything less than that is a failure. Germany looking to get back to the final. They were finalists in the last tournament. Spain wanting to win back-to-back tournaments. So there are some nations where there is expectation. Other nations are seeking improvement, growth and development. And the Swiss are hosts. They're going to have that home nation advantage. That could carry them into the latter stage, into the knockout stages, for example, give them a bit of momentum. Nations like Norway, which were disappointing in recent tournaments, improvement is expected. Teams like Portugal, who are developing, again, that development wants to continue. So it's going to be an interesting one, but some big nations will be going home at the group stages. Group C and Group D are groups of death for me. It wouldn't surprise me if, let's say, England and Germany both get knocked out at the group stage. For example, that could happen just if they get off to a slow start. If a team gets off to a slow start, drops points in the group stage, you put yourself on the back foot, you want to win your opening game. You don't want to draw games, you want to keep clean sheets as well. Some teams have some very good attacking threats. Some teams, as I say, disappointed me in the last tournament. For example, Italy, disappointed me at the last tournament. I expected more from them considering the growth in the game in Italy. So it's an interesting one. But there we go. Kick-off of the Women's Euros on the 2nd of July. Finals on the 27th. So we've got a month to go and then a month of women's football, and I'll be covering as many games as I can. I've got to obviously fit that in with my day job, and this time of year is always exceptionally busy. It's just The days can be hot. Hopefully the weather's not too bad. We have seen in July and August across Europe heat waves, thunderstorms. Last year at the men's Euros, there were a lot of thunderstorms, for example. The playing surfaces didn't hold up very well. Now, a lot of the stadiums being used in Switzerland were used in the Euros in 2008 with Switzerland and Austria in the men's game. So they're going to be using world-class facilities. Let's hope that the playing surfaces hold up. There were criticisms last year aimed at UEFA of the playing surfaces at some of the stadiums, and they didn't hold up very well, and there were issues with transportation and getting fans to and from venues. So let's hope that doesn't impact too much, but I'm looking forward to a fun tournament. Again, Wales debutants, which is fantastic. So we're seeing some new nations taking steps forward. We're seeing some of these lesser nations qualify more regularly, which is good. And let's see who makes the final. Could it be England, Spain again? Like a repeat of the World Cup? That could be really interesting. But the way it looks, though, England and Germany could meet in a semi-final or a quarter-final. But it depends on who gets out of the groups. So there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on the Women's Euro coming up in the comment section below. And I'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.